Hello, friends. It's good to be with you as always. I hope this finds you well. In some of our past episodes, we have talked here about different prayer practices, and I've approached those more from a teaching perspective, explaining sort of how they work, what they are. I want to do something a little different for the next two episodes. I actually want to guide or direct you through a prayer practice. So the first one we're going to do today is one some of you may be familiar with. It's called Lectio Divina, which is simply Latin words that mean holy reading. And I'm going to do this the way that I learned it. You may have done it slightly differently, and that's okay. As with all things related to prayer, there's no one way, there's no best way to pray. The point is simply to do it, to practice it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a passage from the Gospel of Mark. If this were a group of people, I would have three different people read it, but since I'm the one sitting on this side of the camera, I will read it each movement. Then there will be a little time for silence, and I'll mention that. I'm not going to take nearly as much silence as we do it here in this format as I would do if we were in person. But if you want to sit in silence longer than I'm going to have silence, I'd invite you at those moments just to hit the pause button and then sit in silence for a minute, a couple minutes, something like that. And then we'll pick it back up when you hit play again. And again, this is a reading of Jesus in the boat, calming the sea. He's been teaching with large crowds, and he goes out into the boat with his disciples, and there's a storm. So this is from Mark 4. You can also find the same passage in Matthew 8 and Luke 8. So again, we'll read it 3 times. There'll be silence, and then I'm going to ask a question. I will say at the front end here, there's no pressure in this form of prayer. If I were doing this in a group, I'd make this point very explicitly, but I might as well make it here as well. I assume you're listening to me by yourself. But if you don't have an answer or a response to the question, that is just fine, okay? If you do, great. But no pressure at all. It's purely sitting with the scripture. So we're going to read it for the first time. Before I do, I'd invite you, I assume you're sitting down. If you aren't, maybe you might want to sit down, rest in your chair comfortably, feet on the ground, take some deep breaths. If you feel like it, you could close your eyes. And as you're sitting in the chair, I'd invite you to imagine that the chair is actually the hand of God supporting you and surrounding you with God's love as you listen now to this passage from the 4th chapter of Mark. On that day, when evening had come, Jesus said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" Jesus woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. Jesus said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" And now I invite us to sit for a moment in silence. So the first question for you after hearing this passage the first time is, was there a word that stuck out to you? And if we were together in a group, I would invite you then to say, "I heard," and then fill in that word. So I'm going to invite you actually now, either in your own mind or out loud, to name that word. What did you hear? What single word from the reading did you hear? And now the second reading. And I'll have another question for you after that. Again, from the 4th chapter of Mark. On that day, when evening had come, Jesus said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with him in the boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" Jesus woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. Jesus said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" And again, I invite you to take another moment of silence. And the question this time is related to the first one. Was there a word or an image that came to mind for you? And again, if there was, I'd invite you now to name it either out loud or silently in your own heart. But pay attention to that. Was there an image or a word? And then the third reading, third and final, again from the 4th chapter of Mark. On that day, when evening had come, Jesus said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. Jesus said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" And again, I'd invite you to take another moment of silence. And the final question, and again, there may not be a response to this, and that's okay, but the final question is, in that last reading, and having heard it 3 times now, do you hear God or Jesus saying anything to you, asking a question of you, inviting you to stop doing something, inviting you to do something, inviting you to reach out to someone you know, to offer a word of forgiveness, to request forgiveness from someone? Is there anything that you sense God trying to say to you? And if so, I'd invite you to sit with that for just a moment. And I'm going to conclude now with a word of prayer for all of us. Let us pray. Lord Jesus, who calmed the sea for the disciples, we pray that in our own lives you will also be present to us and help us to not be afraid. And all this we pray in your holy name. Amen. Doing this form of prayer is different, I would imagine, in this kind of setting than it is in person, but I pray that it was an introduction to this form of prayer for some of you, and maybe a reminder for those of you who have practiced it before of an important and meaningful way that we can be present with God and allow God to be present to us. Thanks for being here. As always, be well, stay in touch, and God bless.